This is part 1 of chapter number 3, current electricity of class 12th. Okay, in this part we'll study about drift velocity. We'll derive the expression of the current in terms of drift velocity. Mobility we'll discuss. Then Ohm's law and VI graph for few substances. Then the factors affecting the resistance. After that we'll discuss resistivity and the factors affecting the resistivity. Then few definitions, current density and superconductivity we'll be discussing. Okay, now let's start with the first topic, that is drift velocity. Okay, in the first two chapters we have studied about static charges, that is the charges at rest. Now in this chapter we'll study the dynamics of charges, that is the charges will come in motion. So these charges in motion constitutes current electricity. Okay, and the current is defined as the charge flown per unit time. The rate of flowing charge we call it as current. Okay, and its SI unit is ampere, which is coulomb per second. Okay, now let's start with the first topic, that is drift velocity. Okay, let a conductor is connected to the terminals of a battery. Let this is the conductor which is connected to the terminals of a battery having a potential difference V. So this end of the conductor A, it becomes positively charged, whereas the end which is connected to the negative terminal of the battery becomes negatively charged. Okay, so an electric field is set up in the conductor which is from positive to the negative charge. So this is the direction of the electric field which is set up along the length of the conductor. Okay, now here as we know that it's a conductor, it has mobile electrons, free electrons. Okay, when the electric field is set up, these electrons will accelerate towards the positive end of the conductor. Now while accelerating, they will collide with the other ions and with the walls of the conductor, so their velocity reduces. Again they accelerate. Okay, again they collide and their velocity decreases. So here we find out the average velocity of the electrons. This average velocity with which they are drifting towards the positive end of the conductor is called as the drift velocity. So the average velocity of the electrons with which the electrons drift towards the positive end of the conductor is called as the drift velocity. Okay, and it is produced when the electric field is set up in the conductor, that is when the conductor is connected to the terminals of the battery. Okay, now let's find the expression of the average velocity. Let before connecting to the terminals of the battery, that is before the electric field is set up, let the initial velocities of the electrons be u1, u2 and so on, un, if there are n number of electrons. Now let's find out the average of all these initial velocities of the electrons, which will be equal to u1 plus u2 plus un divided by n. Okay, before it is connected to the terminals of the battery, all these are in the random motion. All these electrons are in the random motion, and we know that the average of random motion is 0. Okay, so the average of initial velocities of the electrons, initial velocity means when the electric field is not set up in the conductor, then the average of all these initial velocities is 0. Okay, now when the electric field is set up in the conductor, that is when the conductor is connected to the terminals of the battery, let the final velocity of the first electron according to the equation of motion is given by u1 plus a into t1. Similarly, the final velocity of the second electron is given by u2 plus a into t2 and so on. And the final velocity of the nth electron is given by u n plus a into tn. Okay, so here the acceleration for each electron will be the same. Okay, now let's find out the average of these final velocities when the electric field is set up in the conductor. And this average of all these velocities, final velocities, we call it as drift velocity. Why? According to the definition, the average velocity of the electrons with which they are moving towards, drifting towards the positive end of the conductor when the electric field is set up in the conductor. So now let's find out the average of all this. This average of all the final velocities, we call it as drift velocity, and let us write it as V subscript D. Okay, which is equal to V1 plus V2 and so on, Vn divided by N. V1 here is equal to U1 plus A into T1. V2 here is U2 plus A into T2 and so on. Vn is Un plus A into Tn divided by N. Okay, now this equation can be written as U1 plus U2 Un divided by N plus A into T1 plus T2 plus Tn divided by N. Okay, now as we know that from here, the average of all the initial velocities when the electric field is not set up, when the electrons are in the random motion, this average is 0 plus A into this, we write it as tau, which is called as the relaxation time. Okay, and it is defined as the average time between two successive collisions. Here tau is the relaxation time, which is defined as the average time between two successive collisions. So it is the relaxation time, that is the average time between two successive collisions. Okay, so from this equation we see that the drift velocity is given by A into tau, where tau is the relaxation time and this tau is equal to T1 plus T2 plus Tn divided by N. Okay, A is the acceleration of the electrons and we know that acceleration is force upon mass. Okay, now the charge on the electron is E, which is in the electric field, capital E. So what will be the force? It is equal to E into E. Why? Because we know that electric field is force per unit charge. So this force is equal to the charge multiplied by the electric field upon m into tau. So the expression of the drift velocity is given by E upon m into tau, where E is the charge on the electron, capital E is the electric field set up in the conductor, m is the mass of the electron and tau is the relaxation time. Okay, if we write it in the vector form, as we see here that the drift velocity is opposite to the direction of the electric field. So for electrons, the drift velocity of the electrons will be opposite to the electric field. So we can put a negative sign. Okay, so Vd vector is equal to minus E vector upon m into tau. Okay, but if it is some positive charge whose magnitude is q, okay, and mass is m, then Vd will be equal to Qe upon m into tau. Okay, now let's find out the current in terms of drift velocity. We'll find out the expression of current I in terms of drift velocity. Okay, the same conductor whose length is L, cross-sectional area A, is connected to the terminals of a battery such that the ends of the conductor is given a potential difference V. Okay, now we know that current is equal to charge flown per unit time. So here we'll find out the charge and time for the electrons which are drifting towards the positive end of the conductor. We'll find out its Q and T and substitute in this equation. Okay, now here the volume of the conductor, if its length is L and the cross-sectional area is A, so the volume of the conductor is A into L. Now let N be the number of electrons per unit volume, which is also called as electron density. Then the total number of electrons in the conductor, then the total number of electrons will be equal to N into the volume of the conductor. Number density of the electrons multiplied by volume, that is the number of electrons per unit volume into the volume of the conductor will be the total number of electrons. Now, okay, now the charge on each electron is E. So the charge on the whole conductor will be equal to the charge which is flowing on the conductor. So the total charge Q will be equal to N AL into E. E is the charge on one electron. So on all the electrons the total charge will be equal to NaL into E. So this is the charge Q. Now let's find out the time. We know that time is equal to distance upon speed, and how much distance it has covered? L distance, and what is its speed? Vd. The drift velocity, it is drifting with drift velocity. This is equation number 2. Okay, substituting 1 and 2 over here. I is equal to Q upon T, NaL into E upon L upon Vd. Okay, so here L and L cancels out and we get NEA into Vd. Hence, the expression of the current in terms of drift velocity is given by NEA into Vd. Okay, where this N is the number of electrons per unit volume. It is the electron density. It's not the total number of electrons. N here is the electron density, that is the number of electrons per unit volume, and hence the current in terms of drift velocity is given by NEA into Vd. Okay, one small topic here we'll study, mobility. Okay, that is how much mobile is the electron in the conductor, how freely it can move in the conductor. Okay, and this mobility, which is represented by mu, is defined as drift velocity per unit electric field. The drift velocity per unit electric field is called as the mobility. So this is the expression of mobility. Okay, also we can find in the relaxation time, in terms of relaxation time, because we know that Vd is equal to E upon m into tau. Okay, into 1 upon E, this cancels out. So the mobility for the electron is given by E tau upon m. If it is any other charge having a magnitude q, then it will be given by q tau upon mass of that charge. Okay, so this is the expression of the mobility. Now let's find its SI unit. SI unit of mu will be equal to drift velocity. Will have the unit of velocity, that is meter per second, upon electric field, which is having a unit Newton per coulomb. So the SI unit of mu is meter per second upon Newton per coulomb. Okay, let's find out the relation between the mobility and the current, mu and I. Okay, we know that the relation between Vd and I is equal to NEA Vd. From here, Vd is equal to mu into E. So the current can be written in terms of mobility as NEA. Vd can be written as mu into E. So this is the expression of the current in terms of mobility. Okay, next we'll study about Ohm's law, a very famous law which states that the potential difference across the ends of a conductor is directly proportional to the current flowing through it, provided the physical conditions like temperature, etc. remains constant. Okay, so the physical conditions should remain constant, like the length of the conductor, its cross-sectional area should remain constant. So this is the complete statement of Ohm's law, that is the potential difference across the ends of a conductor is directly proportional to the current, provided the physical conditions like temperature, etc. remains constant. Okay, as V is directly proportional to I, equating it, here the constant is R, which is called as the resistance of the conductor, and it is the ratio of the potential difference to current. So the resistance is the ratio of the potential difference to current. Okay, for a conductor, as we see here, V is directly proportional to I. So the graph is a straight line having a slope. Okay, and the slope of the line, we know that slope of any line is given by tan theta. So here tan theta will be equal to V upon I, that is it is equal to resistance. So the slope of the line gives the resistance provided V is taken along y axis and I is taken along x axis. Okay, if I is taken along y axis and V is taken along x axis, then the slope will give 1 upon resistance, will give the reciprocal of the resistance. So the slope will give the resistance when V is taken along y axis and I is taken along x axis. So the resistance is V upon I, and for a given conductor, the resistance will remain constant. Okay, the resistance will be constant for a given length and the cross-sectional area of a conductor. Okay, now let's study the SI unit of resistance, as it is V upon I. So its unit is volt upon ampere. Okay, and this volt upon ampere is taken as ohm in order to honor the scientist Ohm. So its unit is taken as ohm, and this is the symbol for ohm. Okay, now let's study the VI graph for few substances. For conductors, the VI graph is a straight line having a slope, that is the graph is linear. And such substances whose graph is a linear, the VI graph is linear, these substances are called as ohmic substances. So all conductors at low temperature, okay, the temperature should not be very high, because the resistance will increase with the temperature and the graph will not be a linear graph. So all conductors are ohmic substances. Okay, and the examples are copper, iron, gold, etc., silver. All these are ohmic substances. Why? Because the graph, VI graph is linear. Okay, but there are some substances which do not obey Ohm's law, and such substances are called as non-ohmic substances. Okay, their graph is not linear, the VI graph is not a straight line, and the examples are semiconductor diodes, okay, which you are going to study in the last chapter. Semiconductor diodes, that is a non-ohmic substance. Okay, so the VI graph is not linear. Here V is taken along x axis and I is taken along y axis, and the graph is shaped like this. It is a curved line. So the example of non-ohmic substance is a semiconductor diode whose graph is not linear. Okay, also gallium arsenide. This is also a non-ohmic substance. For gallium arsenide, the VI graph is as shown. Okay, this part is linear, and after this the part becomes non-linear and then it decreases. So this region is the linear region. Okay, from here to here, this region is the non-linear region. Why? Because the VI graph is not a straight line, so this region we call it as non-linear region. Okay, from here to here, the graph is going down, that is, as V is increasing, I is decreasing. So this part is representing negative resistance. So this is the shape of the VI graph for gallium arsenide, which is a non-ohmic substance. Okay, from O to A the graph is linear, but A to B the graph is non-linear, and B to C the graph is representing negative resistance. Okay, so these substances we call it as non-ohmic substances. Okay, now let's study the factors affecting resistance. The first factor is the length of a wire. And how the resistance depends upon length? It is directly proportional to the length of the wire. That is, more the length of the wire, more will be its resistance. The second factor on which it depends is cross-sectional area. And how it depends upon cross-sectional area? Resistance is inversely proportional to cross-sectional area. So thicker the wire, less will be its resistance. So for a given conductor, it is depending upon length and cross-sectional area. Okay, but if the conductor is different, that is, if the nature of the material is different, then the resistance will be different. So it is also depending upon the nature of the material, That is, different substances, different will be its resistance. For example, copper has some other resistance, iron has something else, gold, silver, all these materials will have different resistances. So it is depending upon the nature of the material. Okay, also it is depending upon the temperature. And how it depends upon the temperature? With the rise in temperature, the resistance of a conductor increases. Okay, so with rise in temperature, the resistance of a conductor increases. Okay, we are discussing only about conductor. The resistance of conductor increases with the increase in temperature. Okay, now how it increases? A formula is given. Resistance at T degrees Celsius is equal to resistance at 0 degrees Celsius 1 plus alpha into delta T, where this alpha is called as the temperature coefficient of resistance. It is called as temperature coefficient of resistance, and delta T is the increase in temperature. Delta T is the increase in temperature. Okay, so from here if you calculate alpha, alpha will be equal to RT minus R0 upon R0 into delta T. So what is this? The numerator is the increase in resistance upon the original resistance per degree rise in temperature. So how can we define it? Alpha is defined as the increase in resistance, increase in resistance per unit original resistance per degree rise in temperature. Okay, so what will be its unit? Its unit is degrees Celsius inverse. Okay, this is also resistance. So the unit of alpha is degrees Celsius inverse, or in SI system it will be Kelvin inverse. Okay, that is with 1 degree rise in temperature, how much the resistance of the conductor increases. So the resistance is depending upon the temperature of the conductor. So that is why when we define Ohm's law, we say that the temperature should remain constant, because with the rise in temperature the resistance will increase by this formula. Okay, where alpha is the temperature coefficient of resistance, which is given by RT minus R0 upon R0 into delta T. Okay, now here one thing to be noted down, that alpha is positive for conductors. Alpha is positive for conductors. So for conductors, the resistance will increase with the rise in temperature. Okay, but alpha is negative for insulators and semiconductors. For insulators and semiconductors, as alpha is negative, with the rise in temperature their resistance will decrease. So only for the conductors with the rise in temperature the resistance increases, but for semiconductors and insulators, as alpha is negative, their resistance will decrease with the rise in temperature. Okay, now in this chapter we are discussing only about conductors. So for the conductors the resistance increases with the rise in temperature. Okay, now let's study about resistivity, which is also called as specific resistance. Okay, now we know that for a given conductor at a constant temperature, given conductor means the same conductor at a constant temperature, resistance is depending only on two factors, length and cross-sectional area. Okay, so for a given conductor, R is directly proportional to L upon A. Equating it, the constant is represented by rho. This is again a Greek symbol called as rho. So this rho is called as the resistivity or the specific resistance of the conductor. So from here, rho is equal to R into A upon L. So this is the formula for the resistivity or specific resistance. Now how can we define resistivity? It is the resistance of a conductor of unit length and unit cross-sectional area. So rho is the resistance of a conductor, of unit length, that is whose length is unity, and cross-sectional area also unity, and unit cross-sectional area, that is it is a unit cube. So we can define that the resistivity is the resistance of a conductor of unit length and unit cross-sectional area. From here the SI unit of resistivity will be ohm into meter square upon meter. So what remains? Ohm into meter. So its SI unit is ohm into meter. Okay, now let's study the factors affecting the resistivity. Okay, we have seen that resistance depends upon length and cross-sectional area, and also if the material is different, then it depends upon the nature of the material, and also it's depending upon the temperature. Now we'll derive the formula for the resistivity. Okay, and then from that formula we'll see that what are the factors on which the resistivity depend. We know that current is related to the drift velocity by the formula NEAVD, where N is the electron density, that is the number of electrons per unit volume. E is the charge on the electron, A is the area of the conductor, and VD is the drift velocity. Okay, and VD is given by E upon M into tau. We have derived the expression of drift velocity, which is E upon M into tau. So substituting it here. So this becomes NE square A E upon M into tau. Now here electric field is potential difference per unit length of the conductor. So E is equal to V upon L. So substituting E as V upon L. Okay, now let's find out V upon I. Okay, because we know that V upon I is resistance. So let's find out V upon I. When we find out V upon I, we get it as M into L upon NE square A into tau, which can be written as M upon NE square tau L upon A. Okay, now here V upon I is the resistance, M upon NE square tau into L upon A. Put it as equation number 1 so that we can compare with the standard equation R is equal to rho L upon A. Okay, so comparing 1 and 2, we get the expression of resistivity rho as rho is equal to M upon NE square into tau. So this is the expression of resistivity in terms of this relaxation time. So from this expression we'll see that what are the factors affecting resistivity. So rho is given by M upon NE square into tau. Okay, M is the mass of the electron, constant. E is the charge on the electron, which is also constant. So the first factor rho is inversely proportional to the number density of the electrons, and the number of electrons per unit volume for different material it will be different. So it means the resistivity is depending upon the nature of the material. So what is the first factor on which it depends? It is the nature of the material. Different substances, different will be its resistivity. Copper will have different resistivity as compared to iron, gold, etc. So it is depending upon the nature of the material. The next factor, rho, is inversely proportional to relaxation time, and this relaxation time depends on temperature. Okay, now how it depends upon temperature? With the rise in temperature, now the collisions will be more frequent. That is, the time interval between the two collisions will decrease. Okay, so with the rise in temperature, that is, as temperature increases, the relaxation time decreases. Okay, as the relaxation time decreases, it means the resistivity of the conductor increases. So the relaxation time is depending upon the temperature. More the temperature, that is with the rise in temperature, collisions will be more frequent. That is the time interval between two successive collisions decrease, and so the resistivity of the conductor increases. Okay, again the formula is rho T, that is the resistivity at T degrees Celsius is equal to rho 0 1 plus alpha into delta T. Here alpha is called as the temperature coefficient of resistivity. When we define temperature, then this alpha is called as the temperature coefficient of the resistance. Here it is called as the temperature coefficient of the resistivity. So with the rise in temperature, the resistivity of a conductor increases. Okay, now let's note down few points from this formula. The first point is, as alpha is positive for conductors, so the resistivity of conductors increases with rise in temperature. Okay, with the rise in temperature, the resistivity will increase. Okay, alpha is negative for semiconductors. So their resistivity decreases with the rise in temperature. Okay, as alpha is negative, the temperature coefficient of resistivity is negative for semiconductors. So their resistivity decreases with the rise in temperature when the temperature increases. Okay, now there are some substances, alloys, like constantan, manganese, nichrome. These are called as the standard resistance coils. Their resistivity is very high and the temperature coefficient is very low. Okay, the temperature coefficient of the resistance is very low. That is, with the rise in temperature, their resistance will not change much. So these resistances are used as the standard resistances. Which materials? The alloys like constantan, manganese and nichrome. Why? Because their resistivity is very high and the temperature coefficient is very low. So they are used as standard resistances. Okay, now let's plot the variation of resistivity with temperature for few substances. Okay, first for conductors, let us take it copper. For copper, we know that the resistivity increases with the temperature. Let the temperature is taken in Kelvin. And how it increases? It increases in this manner. This is the shape of the curve. That is, the resistivity increases with the temperature. Okay, now for alloys, let us take it as nichrome. For nichrome, the variation of resistivity with the temperature, again it increases. Okay, but it is increasing along a straight line. Okay, for semiconductors, the resistivity decreases with the rise in temperature. So when the graph is plotted between resistivity and temperature, we see that the graph is shaped like this. That is, the resistivity is decreasing with the rise in temperature. So these are the variation of resistivity with the temperature for few substances. This is for conductor. In conductors, we have taken copper. For alloys, we have taken nichrome. And for semiconductors, the resistivity is decreasing with the rise in temperature. Okay, now let's study few definitions, very small definitions. The first one is conductance. Conductance is defined as the reciprocal of the resistance. Reciprocal of resistance, we call it as conductance. So its unit is ohm inverse, which is also written as mho, or it is also written as Simon. The next is conductivity. The reciprocal of resistivity, we call it as conductivity, and it is denoted by the symbol sigma, which is equal to 1 upon rho. Okay, we know that rho is equal to m upon n e square into tau. So sigma will be equal to n e square tau upon m. And what will be its unit? Ohm into meter inverse. Ohm inverse, meter inverse, or this can be written as mho into meter inverse. The next is current density. Current density is defined as the current flowing per unit area. Current flowing per unit area, we call it as current density. Okay, current in terms of drift velocity is written as NEA into VD upon A. So, NE into VD is the expression of the current density. Okay, now here VD can be written as, we know that VD is equal to E upon M into tau. We have already studied this expression. So, J is equal to, substituting this VD, E upon M into tau, that is NE square upon M into tau multiplied by electric field. Now what is this bracket term? From here you can see that it is the conductivity. So J is equal to sigma into E, conductivity into the electric field. Okay, now here current density is a vector quantity. Though current is a scalar quantity, but current density is a vector quantity and its direction is along the electric field. So J vector is equal to sigma into E vector. Current density is a vector quantity, has a direction and its direction is along the direction of the electric field. Okay, and the SI unit of current density is, from here you can see that, ampere per meter square, current upon area. So its unit is ampere per meter square. Okay, one last topic we'll study in this part is superconductivity. Okay, we know that when the temperature increases, the resistance of a conductor increases. Okay, vice versa is also true. That is, when the temperature decreases, the resistance of the conductor decreases. Now the temperature is decreased until the resistance of that conductor becomes zero. That is, the resistance disappears. Then that conductor is said to be superconductor, and this phenomenon is called as superconductivity. So when the temperature decreases, the resistance of a conductor decreases. Okay, now the temperature is decreased till a temperature which is called as the critical temperature or transition temperature, at which the resistance of the conductor will become zero. Okay, then this conductor is called as a superconductor, and this phenomenon is called as the superconductivity. Okay, now in the next part, that is part 2, we'll study about EMF of a cell, the terminal potential difference of a cell, internal resistance of a cell. So we'll study about the cells. Okay, also we'll discuss about the series and parallel combination of resistances, okay, which has been deleted for this particular year 2021. Okay, but we are going to study over there. So kindly subscribe to the channel and like the videos so that you can watch the next coming parts also. Thank you.